Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. If you weren't aware, we are very close to June 6, 2024. And in symbolism is always numerology, right? I always cover the signs and the symbols, the very obvious things that we see. Obviously, they always use numerology as well. June 6 is 6/6, 24 is 6. So a lot of people believe there could be potential for some false flag events to occur on this day. Now, I am not saying that anything is going to occur. I have no inside knowledge. So obviously, if I have no inside knowledge, all I could do is speculate. I can speculate based on the fact that we know on dates like March 22nd, almost every single year, like clockwork, some type of false flag occurs on March 22nd because of the number 322, skull and bones, that infamous number. They like to plan false flag events on 322. It happens almost every year, like I said, like clockwork. So there's always the chance and the potential of that. Now, the reason I'm covering this and telling you in advance, because some people don't know what the day is, right? Sometimes you just wake up, it's the next day. With all the towers buzzing radiation at us, it's hard to even remember what day of the week it is sometimes. And I want you to be aware because I did cover a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a little bit more than a month ago, that note from Airbnb that on June 6, 2024, they were talking about having a revised major disruptive events policy. So at the time I said that's very suspicious that suddenly they would change their policy for foreseeable weather events. Now, we have to keep an eye on the weather. Most people would just say, well, it's just the day and the weather is going to occur. We know that the government is using weaponized weather. Most people out there do not. Most people will never, ever be able to grasp that, despite the fact that we have presidents on record like JFK, Lyndon Johnson. We have all these guys who have talked openly about weather modification and weather control. Those are their exact quotes, being able to control the weather and then being able to control the world. We know that they can do this. The common person, which is really what we should just call the sheeple, cannot grasp this concept. They have been trained not to be able to grasp this concept, which is why you have heard so many expressions like you can't control Mother Nature, because they don't ever want you to think that they have the ability to do this. Now, you could look up the patents for yourself. You could see that they have the ability to do it. And all one should really need to do now is look at all of the bizarre weather that's occurring around us. The amount of tornadoes, the amount of earthquakes, the amount of hurricanes is astronomical compared to the past. If you go through any graph or any chart of how many hurricanes per year and per state, you will see they've all grown. Now, you've been trained to automatically dismiss this as climate change. That's the whole point. You're supposed to think that it's the climate, it's the warmer earth, so all of a sudden we're having 60 tornadoes are popping up in Iowa, in Michigan, all these places that are getting hit day after day after day. They're using this to clear people out of certain areas and to herd them away. They're moving people around like chess pieces. So, on 6624, we have to keep an eye out on certain things like that. There's always obviously the threat of some type of government stage false flag that occurs at a school, or, well, school is more than likely out in most states, but it would occur somewhere. Remember, they always pick these places that people go, right? Like the beach would surprise me if they had them at the beach this summer. Usually they've been doing things like concerts and malls. I've talked about that for years. Grocery stores. They continue to pick places that would make you feel unsafe. They want you to think that that could happen to you when you go somewhere that you think is just a normal trip. You're running to the store. And again, that's all about bringing those things out of our homes and putting them back in the government's hands. That way there's no chance of any type of revolution against this tyrannical government that, again, is in place on both sides of the aisle. It's the Republicans and the Democrats working together. So there is significance, of course, with the date of June the 6th in general. It's the anniversary of D-Day, the invasion of Normandy, pivotal point in World War II, at least from what we're told. Now, the significance of World War II and how the world looks right now is very important to note as we're coming up on the 80th anniversary on June the 6th of D-Day. So a lot of things are tying back into that with the conflict that you're seeing over in the Middle East, which is really conflict created by the same people who were supposedly saved during World War II, which, again, is another topic for another platform, not named YouTube, where you can actually discuss this. So I'm not, again, saying that something is going to occur, but everyone should be aware when there are significant dates or there's dates that pop up. I also cover around any significant dates in the satanic calendar because we always see things happen in those dates, right? October 13th to October 31st, the Beltane, May the 1st, right? May Day. These are dates that are very significant to the occult. So numerology is something that they always use. So having a day that's 6624, yes, it's not 666, but in a sense it is if you add the two. Now other people will say, well, if you add the 2, the 0, the 2, and the 4, then you get 8, which is incredible that people could still do math this day and age. But yes, that is true. But if you do it in the sense of writing it down 6/6/24 like you would on a check, if you were writing a check to somebody, I don't know if people still write checks anymore, but maybe we should go back to that. But if you were writing out a check that way, it would be 6/6/24. So you would have a 666. Now, it doesn't have to be a major thing, but I would keep a close eye on any type of weather, especially because of that Airbnb write-out that they put. Because in that write-out, it said specifically, the revised major disruptive events policy will apply to all trips and experiences taking place on or after June 6, 2024, regardless of when they were booked. What's changing in the policy? Foreseeable weather events at the reservation's location are explicitly eligible for coverage if they result in another covered event, such as a government travel restriction or large-scale utility outage. The policy will only apply to events in the place where the reservation is located. Events that impact a guest's ability to travel to the reservation are no longer covered. Your continued use of Airbnb platform from June 6, 2024 constitutes acceptance. So what that tells us is that they're obviously thinking of major weather disruptive events happening, but also that the thing of significance in that is government travel restriction. So that doesn't mean that something has to happen on the actual 6th, but it's certainly worth noting that that begins tomorrow, and that could be the beginning of some type of massive weaponized weather consistent event that we see. We obviously, I've talked about this a few times, which is important to note as well. When we saw the simulated northern lights a few weeks ago, all across the earth, and people out there, they're not suspicious of it. They're like, yeah, they've given us a reason for it, solar flares. So we're supposed to believe that we can see northern lights now everywhere all of a sudden, right? Even though at the same time, like I showed you in those videos, you have HARP openly talking about in November, hey, don't worry about the northern lights in the sky over Alaska tonight. They're not real. They're artificial. We're making them up. So they have the ability to do it, but nobody wants to believe, that they actually can do it or are willingly doing it to deceive people, right? So we know they're playing around with HARP right now. We obviously know they're playing around with CERN. We obviously know after that simulated eclipse that they pulled that they're also messing around with the artificial sun. So there's lots of things that could potentially occur in addition to the obvious ones, which are false flag events that they just stage so they could rub it in your face on these specific dates. And again, I don't believe that something huge will go down, only because every single day it seems like there's an event going down. Like there's never before. I mean, for teenagers out there, they think that this is normal, what's been going on the last 5 or 6 years, because it's all they know. Every day there's some event, some stage crap. I mean, it used to be, like if you don't know, like back in the 90s, you'd hear about something going on in the Middle East, the Gulf War. Okay, there's still events. But not like this. Not when you got Trump on trial. Then you got Hunter Biden on trial. Then you get an event at a school, and there's like 75. You go to these propaganda websites like CNN, there's 75,000 different articles out there about something going on around the country. And included in all those are these unbelievable weather events that we're seeing. It never used to be like that. If there was a big weather event, like an El Nino, it would be like a big event. And you'd be like, whoa, there's a big weather event. El Nino is coming. Right now it's like, oh, then 75 tornadoes just hit Kentucky. Oh, okay. And then you go, well, what is the St. Louis Arches, by the way? Does anyone want to tell us? Are these 5G towers like able to simulate HARP? Does anyone want to? No. Shh. It's climate change. Don't you know that this stuff can happen? Because the Earth's temperature is heating up 1 degree Celsius. All of a sudden, we're going to get 900 tornadoes in places that normally don't get tornadoes. We're going to get earthquakes in places like New York. If you remember that earlier in the year. I mean, it's truly incredible that people aren't noticing it, but this is how mind control works. And this is why when I talk about Operation Paperclip and these CIA operations, it's incredible the degree of knowledge they have of how we will respond to certain things that they create, right? And that's why I laugh when I see MAGA. They think that they're waking up to this stuff like, oh, we're catching the CIA. Like they don't know how you're going to respond to the stuff that they're revealing to you, like Epstein and all this. You know what I mean? Like they think that they're actually like above them. Like, oh, the CIA really doesn't know what they're doing. They've mastered mind control and they control the media. So every single thing they do that they let you know about, they want you to know about. And then they use those things to manipulate you, right? I mean, it's truly incredible. So every little thing that's out there with the weather, they've trained everybody out there not to see it. But we have to pay close attention to quote unquote major disruptive events, specifically coming as of 6624. So we'll see what the day actually brings. But if you are new to this, I know a lot of people, don't find my channels anymore. A lot of people want my channel that can't find my channel, which is sad. But these dates are a good place to start too. With signs and symbols, also significance of dates. So if you actually look into 322, and you look into Genesis 322 and what it really means and why Skull and Bones at Yale and all these presidents and major politicians and major heads of corporations have gone through Skull and Bones, then you actually see the events that occur in 322 and what comes out of them, like the Brussels bombing and the Parliament thing. I mean, you start it's another easy way to wake people up. So significance of numerology and dates like 666, 322, and signs and symbols are always an easy way to start. So we'll see what 6624 actually brings. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.